Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. This is Joy Lingerie, and I have with me three members of the Limberlost music. Um, uh, I don't know, do you call it band? Is it a band? Limberlost
Yeah.
band?
Oh yeah.
And
Limberlost.
we're happy to hear from them today and see them. First Lady, so waving right there, is Crystal Payette. Did I say it right?
Yes, you did. Very good. Very good.
And below her, we have, oh my gosh, help me out. Lorraine, I know that it's
Brittany
Yes, Brittany
Loren.
Loren. Yeah, that's right. That's right. I know we're doing like a bit of a Brady's Bunch thing up here. Like, next we have.
yeah, and finally, the one thorn in the bunch of roses here is Mike Burke. Hi, Mike. All
How
right.
you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine. So I'd like to introduce the Luscious Moss Studio, who is my sponsor. They're located in Edgewood. He is owned and operated by Chad Chris, located in Edgewood, Washington. And you can find him on Facebook by entering either Luscious Moss or his name. He's primarily set up to record drummers and guitarists, but he has produced my music and he is open to new projects. So you can find him there, and good luck. And with that, I'm going to start. Who wants to be the first victim here?
Sacrificial lead singer. Why not?
Called it.
Okay, so the first question is, how did you get into music? What were your first instruments? And a little bit about your musical background and how it led to this band, Limberlost. This great band, Limberlost.
Yeah. Yeah, so I've been just, I guess, musical ever since as long as I can remember. I can remember being very young and orchestrating songs and writing songs in my head as I was, playing outside or whatever. And I would just kind of play whatever instruments I could get my hands on. My dad's a guitar player. I didn't want to play guitar for a long time because, of course, who wants to do what their parents want them to do? So I took a little bit of piano when I was very young, and after that, I just kind of experimented around. And when I was about, I want to say, 12 years old, my mom was watching Oprah, and Bonnie Raitt was on that day, and that was the day that I looked at the TV and said, I want to do that. So that's when I snuck into my dad's room and busted out his Telecaster and started learning some guitar chords.
Wow.
And so that led me to, for many years, playing music at my church, which I do still participate in regularly. And through those years, so I had experience kind of playing in bands in those situations. And that is actually what led me to Limberlost. Also, I was playing music, kind of co-leading music at one of the churches I was at, and Mike came to visit, and when he gets to that part of the story, he can tell you how that went down. But we kind of all met at the church and were playing together as the band for Sunday mornings, and we decided to try writing some music together. So we spent about a year kind of doing both of those things as a team and writing songs, and we finally got around to recording our first single that we released, which is called Long Shadows. No, it's not. It's called Thin Clouds. Don't listen to me. Thin Clouds, and that was our first studio recording, and that was kind of like the ball that started rolling downhill. And we ended up getting a lot of great support from our local area, from places like Seattle Wave Radio and just friends in town, and we're able to start playing shows and doing competitions and things. And it's been a wonderful 6-year journey now.
Wow, 6 years together.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, I guess that Brittany Lorraine, that's you. You're next.
Nope.
Uh-oh.
That's right. Oh, hello. That's right. I muted it just in case it was coming through. But yeah, so same question. And
yeah, same question.
Okay, well, my history of music is really, really long. It was just what I knew I always wanted to do. My mother was a singer in bands in the 80s. She was a singer in a pretty prolific band at the time in Arizona called Colorado Kool-Aid. And so I sort of was exposed to the world of it. And then even after that, I just loved instruments. I took piano. So that was always what I was going to do. I got my degree in voice, and I sang opera in Italy. That was a thing that happened in my life. And that taught me something, though. That taught me, like, if I was to do that classical route, you sort of have to give everything to that. And that didn't leave room for my songwriting and my composing and my love for modern music, like pop and rock and just cool things, and so I came back from that experience. I moved to Seattle, and I ended up out of a Cinderella kind of story. Mutual friend of ours, Sammy Shafi, great local musician, invited me to sing at one of his shows. Mike happened to be in the audience, came up to me afterwards, said they're looking for a second singer at that particular time. Their original harmony singer had chose to leave the band. So it was just kind of a Cinderella thing. I showed up, and the crazy thing, and I always tell this story because it just still to me this day is so crazy to me. I remember hearing Crystal for the first time and just thinking like, oh my God, like she sounds like my mom. Like there's something so familial about our voices, and I just thought, I wasn't at that point in my life considering a harmony role. I was really looking for a lead role, but when I heard her voice and the kismet way that we met, it was just so obvious that this was the place for me. So,
all right. Thank you. That's amazing. And you guys sound fantastic together, especially in your new
pretty awesome.
coming out. Yeah.
Thank you.
What is the name of that song now? Why? I don't know. Today is not my day.
The one that's coming up for release soon?
Yes.
I'll be Black Velvet. Our cover of the Alana Miles song, Black Velvet.
I've been playing that in my car. Mike sent it to me, but I can't share it. So
not yet.
Not yet. So it is a great song and beautiful vocals. And I guess that leads us to you, Mike. And I also, not only your musical background, I believe you're a drummer. Is that correct? Mike, are you there?
That just fuzzed out on me. Yeah, I can hear you. Say that again.
I don't know where I was at with that, but
you're a drummer. Correct.
Yes, I'm the drummer.
Okay.
And chief paper pusher.
Yes, paper pusher, paper cuts,
and paper loser,
fire starter, fire burner,
cat wrangler.
Yeah.
How do you get started, Mike?
I do. How did I get started in music?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, there was this pterodactyl flying over, and I was throwing rocks at it. No, I'm just kidding. It was a long time ago. Honestly, it's kind of funny because I'm watching my son go through these stages of discovery of music. He just got his first turntable, so he's going through this vinyl collection, and we have a bunch. We have a bunch of vinyl from back in the day, and so he's kind of starting to play the stuff, and I'm listening to some of the stuff that he's playing. I'm going, holy crud! He's listening to like old Jackson 5 records, and some of the stuff that I kind of grew up on. So it was kind of fun to watch that. He actually was playing a vinyl recording of JFK speaking. Now I'm not that old, but but he had that out and he was listening to it. So anyway, but yeah, so no, it was watching TV because we had no real way of, you could listen to the radio and I'd watch TV, and we had the Ed Sullivan Show. I was a big, the Beatles, all that stuff was like super cool to watch all that stuff happen. And that's kind of when I got the music bug, was just watching these variety shows, I guess you'd call them, back in the day, when all these different bands and musicians and families would get up and perform, and I was like, oh, that's so cool, I want to do that. Of course, now nobody in my family was musical, so I didn't get any support in that. So it wasn't until I left, I was getting ready to leave college. I was down in LA, I was getting ready to start my second year of college down there, and I got to actually go watch the recording of the Tusk album with Fleetwood Mac and USC Marching Band. And at that point, I was like, okay, that's it. That's what I want to do. And so I left school. I quit college, got a loan, got a drum set, moved in with Dad, and started playing in garage bands. And that was probably the early 80s. And it just I took a little hiatus. I've had the real. I have to say this. I've had the real pleasure of working with some really incredible musicians in my life. Now,
Yes.
I'm not saying I'm one, but I've had the very good,
Yes, you
prospects of working with,
Yes.
especially guitar players. I've had some just friggin' amazing guitar players that I've gotten to play with over the years. Um, One of them I'm gonna actually get reunited with here in about another month. But anyway, it's when you have really good quality people around you, it really makes this fun.
Absolutely. I
And
agree.
it's so yeah, so I left. I'm making this way too long. So anyway, I ended up in a worship team after about a 15-year hiatus down in Southern California, and I kind of really got back into that whole deal, and I got to see some cool stuff. One of my guitar players is related to the guys in the band POD. Who are friends with people in Switchfoot. And so I kind of got to see that and experience that and meet some of those people. So when I moved back to Washington, I just had this big bug in my ear that I wanted to not just do the worship, but take it outside the walls. And so it was just kind of this long, convoluted path to get there. But I ran into Ricky through a Facebook or through a Craigslist ad. And then eventually, a couple of years later, ended up at this church where I met Crystal. I remember the day we walked in with my wife, and it was like our second time to this church. And she comes bouncing out on stage and starts singing and jumping around with her acoustic guitar and stuff. And I leaned over to my wife and I said, that's my new lead singer right there. So I think it was about 3 months later, I actually joined the team, and it started that whole process of manipulation. And here we go. So yeah, so it was
At least
probably
we're
about
truthful.
2012 when now that came about, and then we recorded our first song in early 2016, I think it was. Started getting some press, started getting some interest in us. We had never played really live in the non-church vibe. Lost a player right out of the gate because he knew this was going to probably take a bunch of time he didn't have, and so we ended up with Ben. And Ben we call him our rescue, but he's been with us pretty much since we started playing live. And then we morphed from a 4-piece into a 5-piece and picked up a keyboard player, a couple different ones, several different ones. One of them being Ray Hayden, who's, I believe, how I met you. And the
Raymond, he gets around.
and then we kind of morphed into more of a business orient. What's that?
I said Raymond Hayden gets around. He gets around.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah,
he
he
does.
does.
I've got all kinds of names for Raymond that I'll leave for another show. But anyway, and so that morphed our music a little bit because we'd never really written our first album. Most of it was not written with a keyboard thought in it, necessarily, or a place card. So we developed into that as we finished the first album. And then we were in a contest with the Muckleshoot Casino. And I think it was the second round we'd gotten passed through to the second round. And there was a friend of Raymond's that was coming into the country as she normally did, like once a year. And he usually would put on shows with different types of bands where he just kind of get a bunch of people together and kind of do these all-star show kind of deals. And because of his time he was spending with us, he really didn't have any time to put that together for her. So he kind of whispered in my ear, he goes, "Hey, would you mind if Circa sang a song, at our next show?" And I sat on it for about 2 or 3 hours, and then I called him back and I said, "Well, if she's going to do that, why doesn't she just sing with us?" So we just do the whole show. So he goes, "I could run that by her." So we ran it by the rest of the band, and she came in, was very pro. She learned all her stuff, and that show she actually came up and sang and did a great job. And it was a new vibe for us, but it was kind of cool to have that background vocalist. It really fattened our sound up, and I think it was a couple months later she came over permanently, and so that became our look. We were officially a 6-piece then. And then I want to say it was about a year and a half later, we were kind of getting a little too busy for the normal South End music scene thing, and that was being players that were in several different bands. And that became a thorn. It was really hard for me to move as fast as I needed to move when I had to check on everybody's schedules with how many other bands they were in. And so we kind of drew a line in the sand at that point and incorporated and said, if you're going to be in Limberlost, you're in Limberlost, and that's it.
Okay.
And so shortly after that line was drawn is when we lost Raymond, because he had several other bands that he was committed
He
to.
has a lot of his own projects.
Great
Yeah, a lot of
bands.
projects.
So we understand that.
Yeah.
So it was the right move for him, but it was also the tough move for us, but it was the right move. And then shortly after that, Circa had decided to part ways because she wanted to do her solo thing and support her friend's band that she was also singing in. So but it was pretty seamless. Like Brittany said, I just, during all that, I happened to be at a show that a friend of mine was playing at, and I ran into her, and that was serendipitous. But it was timing. And our first keyboard player that had ever played with us on stage was Tony, and so I approached him, and he still had another project going. But I explained to him that if this got real, he was going to need to make a choice, and he was willing to take that risk. COVID kind of made that happen.
Yeah.
But so that became the new look of, and what was funny about that is we played a show in like August, I think it was August, with Circa. And literally the very next show we played was at Luigi's in Tacoma, and it was the full lineup, and nobody even knew that was happening. People were showing up and like, well, where's Ray and Circa?
Yeah.
It was like, boom, we had a new band. And because we just don't put that stuff out in the world. We just take care of business and show up. So that's kind of the Limberlost story from front to back. And
We have a question.
The last couple of years have been very, 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 very wild.
We do have a question. This is from Patrick from Dublin Abbey. And he says, I may have missed this earlier, but I was wondering where the name Limberlost came from. It's an interesting name, and I would like to know as well. So I'm sure viewers would enjoy hearing that story. Who's going to go for that one?
I'll take that one. So, with the advent of the internet and Facebook pages, it is very easy to quickly find out how many good band names are already taken by many other bands.
Yes.
So that in this day and age is a little tricky. You kind of need to have something unique and something not used. And so we were just kind of tossing ideas around, and this idea was actually brought up by Ricky, our guitar player. He mentioned it. The name Limberlost out of a childhood reference. And it just so happened that I also had a childhood reference for this. When I was growing up, my favorite novel was called A Girl of the Limberlost. It was written by Gene Stratton Porter in the early, 1800s. And it's about a place called the Limberlost. It's a sort of a swamp type place. And the book is actually kind of about the conservation of that area and a girl who lived there in the story, and her mother hated music because music was kind of part of the reason why this girl's father had died in the story. And so when this girl was growing up and going to school, she discovered a love for music and playing the violin. And so it's a very cool kind of like coming of age story, a story about reconciling with her mom through this. And it was just a great book, and I really loved that. And so it was kind of something that was always near and dear to me. And Ricky just happened that his grandmother called the woods behind their house when he was growing up the Limberlost. So the Limberlost is named, if you go onto Wikipedia, there's a story about how it got its name, which is really fun. And it's still currently a place. It's now currently under conservation again, where they're setting aside that part of the wilderness to try and keep it alive and stuff. But so
that's interesting. Very interesting.
It's also kind of got a metaphor.
It does. Yeah. Okay. So the guy who, the reason it's called the Limberlost is because there was a guy named Limber Jim who got lost out in this swamp. And
he was
Limber Jim.
Limber Jim.
He got lost real good, and he had a situation where he realized that he was not going to make his way out if he was still walking in circles, right? So he had to, kind of say that prayer that I need help to get out of this. And he had to start, paying attention to making sure that he was staying on one path and not getting pulled off. And he was able to find his way out, and that's how it got its name. And so there's a good story for us about how you really do have to pay attention to where you're putting your feet, and so that you're not spinning your wheels and running around in circles, and so that you know that you are following your purpose.
Oh, I love it. A great name. I love the story. So, next question. Has it been difficult in the last 6 years because you're a girl fronted band? Has it been difficult for you? I know that's a leading question. How to answer that right? But how have you had any challenges that way, or is the band the kind of band that just sort of brings something that people can't resist, and it doesn't matter who's singing it?
It's very interesting. It's a little of both. I think that we've been very blessed to be really well received as performers, as a band, and the package that we bring as far as entertainment goes. We've had a lot of support there. That's really wonderful. We always get to make new friends and new fans at every show. I absolutely love that part of it. The industry is the industry, and every once in a while, I do have to bump my head up against somebody who has, prior conceptions about women's involvement in rock and roll. There's just not as many of us as there are men, and so I've had to learn over the years not to always go in guns a-blazing and to make myself known as competent. You just kind of have to show up and be genuine and still know your stuff, right? So I come rolling in with a big box of gear. I manage our equipment on stage as far as like our in-ear monitor system and some things like that. So, sound guys are getting more used to that. They're getting more used to women being, experienced and informed in the industry little by little. So I would say as the years go by, things are improving, but there have been situations where like I'm standing on stage and there's a sound team trying to fix an issue and I'm pointing at the issue saying, is it this over here? And they're completely not listening to me. That every once in a while, stuff like that happens, that kind of thing. But it's better and better. And I think that there's been a lot of positive change. Absolutely. And I'm really happy to see that.
I appreciate that comment. It's a little more difficult, maybe. I'm not sure. My research is not finished yet, but it seems to me that country music singers, female, they have a hard time competing for the radio time, and which is and you hear 10 guys before you hear one woman. I'm always pointing this out to my husband and shaking my head. So it's there. It's there. Hopefully things will get better. But on the other hand, women are busy doing other things now. It isn't like they were 20, 30, 40 years ago. And so they have full-time jobs and families and, a lot of obligations besides. Yeah. Anyway, moving on from that, where would you put your music if you had to say what genre? Is this strictly rock? Because the stuff that I've heard so far, I wouldn't really know where to put it. I mean, if I was on CD Baby trying to figure out what category I'd put this in, I'm not sure. Who'd like to answer that?
What do you think, Mike?
Well, early on, I figured we had a little bit different lane that we were in, or many lanes that we were in. You have to kind of look at the composition of this band from a song. There's several songwriters, so it's not like one person's writing the song, so you get one perspective on music.
Okay.
There's at least 4 of us, I believe.
It's a lot like Fleetwood Mac was back in the day.
So there's different genres, there's different ages,
different influences,
a lot of different influences and stuff. So where I'm coming from more of a 70s, 80s perspective, Crystal may be a little bit more 90s, that kind of thing. So, so I don't think you can pigeonhole us. If somebody asked me the simple question, I just say we're rock. If they want to boil it down more, I say we're probably more classic rock. But I think what I like to call it, and I've got a friend who's been mentioned before, Sammy, we kind of spiffball this because we kind of feel we're in the same boat. It's more melodic rock. We tend to work a lot of melody out. We tend to spend a lot of time, on hooks and stuff like that, where some music these days is just all about a certain sound. There's a lot of lot of music out there right now where you could play me 10 songs and I couldn't tell you what band it is, you know. So we work really hard on trying to also be very unique in our sound. And that is, recognizable, I guess would be the word. You know, it's like when I love it when somebody says, "Oh, that sounds like, that's Limberlost." You know, I knew that was you guys right away. A lot of that's Crystal's voice. You know, she has a very unique voice. I think something else that's really cool about this band is if you listen to our songs, it's very hard to stack one against another and say, "Oh, that's like this one." You know, we haven't ran into that wall yet where it's like,
a lot of difference. That's what I enjoy for sure. I love playing with all of our different influences, and part of what's been important to us since the beginning is being able to enjoy the music that we're making. So I think that lends itself towards how our sound comes out, is just what do we love and what do we love doing. And to a certain extent in the industry, you have to kind of consider what is approachable and what is marketable, but you also have to consider that your collective viewpoint is going to be different than any other band's potentially. And that's what is hopefully going to be the thing that helps you kind of like, get to the top of the mass of music that is happening right now, is having something that is a little bit undefinable and a little bit, unique, a different take on a sound, rather than actually like choosing a genre and really kind of like targeting a sound. It's more about targeting what you love.
Right. Thank you for that. I do have another comment here. It says, "Love Limberlost." A lot of exclamation marks on the back.
Oh, thank you.
After says, "You guys rock," and that's from Andrea Hollister.
Aww.
Do you guys know Lynn Sorensen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. That's coming from that side of the house.
Yeah. Nice. That's great. Thank you.
Right. So during this period in the 6-year period that you were together and so forth, is that how long you've been with them too, Brittany, Lorena? Has it been 6 years?
No, I think 4.
It'll be 4 this fall.
Yeah, they were an established thing for like 3 years, 4 years before I joined.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so while you're
I know what Bigfoot she's at.
What's that?
No, you don't.
Oh, and then we lost her.
No, you don't.
I said I know what Bigfoot she's at.
The
Bigfoot is the coffee stand that she's parked outside of.
Yeah.
So how do you girls pick your costumes? How do you get to that look?
That's a good question.
Very good question, which is hilarious because I feel like Brittany does more work in this regard than I do. She has taken a role that really blesses my heart as a performer. She lets me do whatever I'm going to do, and then she will work around that for the day, or work around, she'll kind of ask me, "What are you wearing today?" And that's wonderful that she's done that for me, because on show day, my brain is kind of like, it can only do one thing. My brain can be focused on the performance, and that's it, really. So managing things outside of my own, the things that I have to get done is very difficult for me. So she has taken that on even without me asking her specifically to do that. So, we just kind of go, I personally run through the thrift stores and just try to find things that are, cheap and unique. And sometimes I will modify or make my own pieces.
You made a lot of yours.
And I think that's one way without spending a lot of money. I have time, so I can spend that on things, and I have creativity. So I do enjoy doing that. But mostly it's for me, it's a lot about actual like function on stage. I don't have to worry about my skirt blowing up. I don't have to worry about things falling down.
That happened to me.
I don't want to worry about falling out of my high-heeled shoes. So I choose based on what I can perform comfortably in, and is not distracting to me, and something that, I hope, takes our sound and puts some visual aspect to it. So.
Yeah. All right.
I have loved to build all of my outfits from the various venues and shows and gigs that we've had, So my outfit now, it's actually kind of incredible. It's literally incredible. My top that I wear consistently was something that my mom gave to me that she used to perform in.
Yeah.
So it's awesome. Sort of seen it's life in that realm. And then yeah, everything else, like my little skirty thing I wear, or like some of this stuff, I get it at those little stands, you know, when you're like going through like at
vendors,
Sturgis or little vendors, and they have cool things. I'm like, oh my god, that I have to get that. So I find that unique. I find it fun, and I feel like it's also like a, I don't know, a little memoir of all of the places
souvenirs
I've been
along
to.
the way.
Yeah. And then I know, to what Crystal's saying, I usually show up to our shows with like a suitcase of things. Like I have the idea in my head of what I'm gonna wear, but if it like really clashes with what she's gonna wear, because I have no idea what she's gonna wear, then I'm gonna like instantly change. And it has happened. It doesn't always happen, but it has happened where I look at her and I look at me and I'm like, nope, nope, nope. And I go out to my car to my suitcase.
God bless
you. Literally all of my stage clothes.
I have two other questions about this. There are some groups out there that have two female lead singers. Have you guys ever? I mean, you said you would like to have been a lead singer, but after hearing Crystal's voice, that you rather you were just drawn into it and wanted to do it. So is there any plans in the future for possibly having two lead singers? And like I'm thinking of a country band, Little Big Town. They have a blonde and a dark hair girl, and they both sing. Yeah.
It's very interesting. And to me, what's fun about my voice and Brittany's voice combined is that we do have different registers. Brittany is definitely a soprano and I'm more of a mezzo soprano. So for us, that place that's really natural is where she's, a third above me for a good portion of what we're doing. And that's the kind of sound that really works. Like if you look at Ann and Nancy from Heart, same kind of thing. Anne has more of the belting mezzo voice, and then her sister has the voice that just sits perfectly above that, and then the timbre is just right for that. So we do occasionally inside a song, we do take turns inside some of our cover songs, inside some of our originals, where Brittany will take a verse or a portion of a song and we'll trade back and forth, which is really a fun dynamic on stage as well. And
we sort of try to take that example that Hart created there, and maybe, what's the word, my verbiage I want to use here, I like initially was like one up, but it's not that. It's just like, how can we evolve that
to us?
How can we take that and make that ours? And so we do try to have a little bit more of that duo presence, and that more like we trade off that melody line sometimes, or like I'll come in on this, or like some of our songs even on the album, I have lead on in like one of the ones that I wrote. So we ride that line of like still having a particular voice as our model, as our sound, and then giving you a little Fleetwood Mac feel, giving you a little bit of Heart feel, giving you a little bit of these people you've heard before, but maybe also unique. And I love that you say that too, as I see this all the time. I see country singers, I see a couple jazz. There's a jazz group that's coming out now, two females. Shoot, that's all right, I'm not gonna name them, but I get their feedback. I'm going, man, this is cool. Cool. We're representing something that's it's a neat thing. It's a niche, and people are liking it. So,
absolutely. So, who are the members, Mike? I guess this question is going to you. Who are the other members of your band, and what do they play?
Well, that's a good question. You have obviously Crystal and Brittany on vocals. I play drums and do some backing vocals. And then we have Ben Beeman on bass guitar. We've
our big blonde.
got all kinds of names for him, but he's basically our
Thor.
He's our personal Avenger. Thor. And then we have Ricky Dunn on guitar, and then
Southern boy
Anthony Soroki on keyboards, and he also does backing vocals. So. That's pretty much the crux right there. That's the group. And it's definitely a soup,
Six.
Wow.
which is
Yeah.
can be slightly unwieldy. We do take up a fair amount of space on stage. So there's been some very interesting challenges when you are on tour and you show up to a venue and there's a postage stamp that they're calling a stage, and you have to cram on top of that, or
Drum
you're
riser.
cramming onto a stage with another band and they're like, you get to set up in front of all this other stuff. You know, I've played at the Whiskey A Go-Go now with exactly like 1.5 feet in front of Mike's drum set to, you know, entertain myself in. So it could be a challenge, definitely, but it also gives us a big full sound. Gives us a good full sound, you know, being able to come with, you know, full instrumentation with guitar and keyboards, and then a full set of vocals as well. So
absolutely, I've been there. I had 5 in mine, so I know.
It's interesting. There's a lot of garbage going around right now about people using tracks and not using tracks. Apparently, there was a band just recently. I think they're Relevant. I think they were called Relevant Saints. I'm not sure, but they actually canceled their performance because their computers wouldn't boot up, you know, at a concert. So, and so that started this whole thing over that. So, you know, and I don't care one way or another about any of that, to be honest with you. But I love the fact that we don't have to do that. I'm not saying we never will or never would, but you know, we have every sound we produce, we can reproduce pretty much. So, you know, we are limited. We have one guitar, you know, and Crystal, I know Crystal's been working on it a little bit, you know, thinking about coming in as a second occasionally, but you know, Tony's a you know, a beast on the keyboards, and so he's got the ability. Even our probably most produced song we've ever done was produced by our friend Timothy Eaton. The song "Good Fight" was, I think, our really first taste, because we gave up all that control to this producer, where we let him run, and he did a bunch of stuff to that song that maybe on our own we wouldn't have done or tried, because we wouldn't have conceived the idea of reproducing it. But then we found ourselves in a position to have to kind of reproduce it, and so we found out we could, and that was what was really cool. So yeah, I think that, you know, it is a big task to have 6 members. You know, it really is. There's a lot behind herding the cats or running the daycare, or whatever you want to call it,
getting all the schedules lined up.
It does. Yeah, keep making sure everybody's in contact and knows and can understand what's going on, and dealing with all the personalities and idiosyncrasies and blah 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 blah. But what it translates to for us on stage, and also in our songwriting and in our production, I think it's pretty cool. It's actually. I mean, sometimes I wonder what it would be like if we added one more member. You know, I've always got this wheel spinning. But anyway. Actually, we need to run it. We need to add a sound man here.
That would be wonderful.
Yes. Many members behind the scene. That's what we need.
Some road crew. Whoa, that would be amazing.
Yes,
absolutely.
All right, that's the next step for us, man.
So the thing that I'm wondering is, if you've been out there 6 years, you were caught in that whole COVID thing. And what did you guys? How did anybody can answer this? Whoever jumps.
Lovely stories about this. So there was a point in time where we were absolutely told, you may not see anyone outside of your own family, no contact. You know, it was early on, and nobody had any idea what was going to happen with this thing. So we understood that. So there was several months where we weren't able to do our regular thing. And for years, for us, we had been playing every week, like nonstop, like without fail, every week pretty much. And so that for me was a big adjustment to make. And we were in the studio right up until COVID hit. We had just recorded some songs. We did this great arrangement of a cover song where we had like Timothy working with us, and we had a children's choir, and we were working on another one of our original songs, and we had everything recorded except the vocals. And our engineer, you know, has some risk factors for his health, you know, dealing with breathing situations. So we definitely didn't want to put him at risk during that situation. So everybody kind of like figured it out how to get a working computer and microphones and interface and all of the equipment dropped on my front porch. And so I got on FaceTime with our engineer, and he helped me set up Pro Tools software and set up the track. And so I got into my closet and I pushed some clothes out of the way, and I had to wait for the airplanes to stop because I live right under a small airport's runway line, like literally right under it. So every 5 minutes I would stop recording and wait for them to go by, or I'd open the door and be like, family, shh, shh, 10 more minutes, I swear. And so I sat there for a couple hours and recorded the vocal, and then got that sent over, and God bless our engineer. He was able to make something out of it. He was able to make it work, and do the editing and what was necessary to make it usable. And I feel like from that track that you wouldn't be like, oh man, it sounds like she recorded in her closet. So that's the magic of having someone with some experience and some knowledge on your side. And so we did that, and then a little bit later, kind of on in the game, when we were able to get back together, we were able to get Brittany in and have her do her part of the vocals, and she did some arranging with the guys. So we got some great harmonies on that song. That song is called The Real Thing, if you're curious about which one it was. So that was our kind of like our little pandemic baby that we were able to kind of, we didn't want to stop. We didn't want to lose momentum, so we did everything we could to keep going. We just kind of postponed what we had to postpone, and work on finishing the album. The album got pushed back. Some music videos that we were shooting got pushed back, and I know I'm kind of like being the one to blabber on, but the other great story from the pandemic is that song that Mike was talking about called "Good Fight." It's the title track off our most recent album. That one, we had recorded the song, and then the pandemic hit. And that song, actually, I wrote about kind of stemming from situations in my relationship with my husband. He's been an incredible support to me. I've had a lot of struggles over the years with mental health and a lot of grief in the last few years, a lot of loss that I've been dealing with. And he has been very steady, rock solid. And we've been married it'll be 20 years in December, which is incredible. But even being married all of that time, there are times when I realize that we're still just missing each other on what we're talking about. And you get to a situation where you're like, have we really misunderstood each other about this one thing for this long? Like it still happens sometimes. Yes. And so that song is about how sometimes you have to fight through stuff because you're fighting for each other, not against each other, right? And so I wrote that song from that place. And when the pandemic,
I'll take over here.
Okay, you take
we had that song, and it was in the can, and it was like my favorite thing ever. Like we listened to it, oh my God, I love this song. And then the pandemic hit. We're like, okay, we're postponing it. Well, meanwhile, I went home and I like put together this whole aesthetic video with like free clips. So it had watermarks and stuff, you know what I mean? But it was like an aesthetic. It was an idea.
The video.
And then the pandemic hit, and everything was happening, and I'm listening to the song because I used to listen to it every day.
Stuff happening nearby, and there was a lot going on in the world.
It was so crazy. It was like talking about what was happening right now
nearby.
And I came into the rehearsal room and I just said, you guys, like, what's happening with Good Fight? Like, Good Fight, you guys, Good Fight.
Yeah. And we realized that song is about more than just, what I had written about. It had really grown into something that could be an anthem for, we have to find a way to work together as human beings, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes, I listened to that song, by the way, and we have another comment. I believe it is from Ray Hayden.
Hi, Ray.
Look up at your comments in the upper left, you'll be able to see it, and it says Limberlost rocks.
Ray Haas.
Thank you, buddy.
And
Thank you.
Love it. Somebody else wrote, and I tried to get on there to see who this was, and that's the noise in the background you heard. I apologize for that. I didn't realize I was going to do what I did, but anyway.
Okay.
So moving on.
I want to bounce in on this pandemic thing a little bit here, if I got a second. One of the things that's been very interesting going through that whole process and coming out of it, I think you're just starting to see the music scene starting to wake up a little bit. I don't think it's there yet, but it's starting to come alive more and more. But we actually had our very first tour ever booked, and then the pandemic hit. I mean, literally, we were from Atlanta all the way back to Seattle. And it was just so heartbreaking because we never canceled a show. Yeah, we never canceled a show. Shows were canceled, but we
Yeah.
never stood
Yeah,
up and said,
right.
we're going to cancel this because of the pandemic. Okay.
Right.
Nothing against people that did that. We just weren't going to do that. We didn't follow the herd necessarily. We kind of stood back and watched to see what was going to happen a little bit and
Right.
kept our focus on
I
what
mean,
we
we
needed to
followed all
do.
the guidelines. Like,
And
caveat, we followed
We
all of the
did.
we
guidelines
followed that. Yeah,
during
no, we
COVID and
followed,
all of that kind of stuff, all of the social distancing, anything at any show
but
we
we didn't
did.
follow the industry. Yeah, we didn't follow the industry necessarily, though. Industry went to live streaming. The industry moved into certain
Yeah.
things that
It
people would
did.
do to keep themselves busy
Yeah.
and active in the business. And I don't know if it was just me as the guy that was kind of pulling the train at the time, but it was like I knew we were going to come out of this, and I wanted to be positioned to be, the guy riding the shark, on the wave coming out of the,
Right.
the when the gates open, not the people's
Mhm.
paddling to get on the wave when it came through the door. So we never really gave up on anything until we had to. And so there were some things we did, and they were fun and all that, but we tended to kind of be a little bit more introverted in terms of how we were going to make decisions. And we had a couple shows that did not cancel on us, and there was enough of an ability to do it, and the
Mhm.
guidelines were reasonable enough for us, and we were just going stir crazy that we actually went out and that summer, and we actually played Denver and we played Salt Lake,
Mhm.
and we came back and stuff, and they again all the guidelines were followed, and then we were just in a really good position. I would have to say, coming into 2021, when when the tumblers started to fall, all but albeit very crazily, like we had some really cool stuff
Unpredictably.
lined up, and we were able to go do a lot of things that when I look back at from July of 2021 to where we just walked out of our last show here a couple of weeks ago, we for most local bands, we just did a career in that time period.
Yeah.
I mean, the ability, the big stages we were able to play, the people we were able to play with, and all that. And I say that a lot of that had to do with the fact that we kept our legs turning under the water during the pandemic, that allowed us to have momentum to be able to go out and make all that stuff happen. We had the right material in place. We had, we had the right shows booked. We were working with the right people and all that. And so it's cool. It's cool that, things even happened out of that we didn't even have on the books that were like amazing, that
Mhm.
we were like going, wow, how'd that happen? So I think the pandemic, where it had it's definitely sucked. It definitely sucked. I'm not saying that didn't suck. It sucked. But I look back at it and go, if it hadn't happened the way it did, I don't think we would have had the kick-ass year that we've just had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got 15 minutes, and I'd like to get some ideas from each one of you, starting with Crystal. What you see in the future for your band, and what goals you may set from 1 to 5 years from now. What are you looking at? What did you like to see?
I tend to be a very live in the moment just personality. That's just kind of where I function best, which for me, I take that as a strength in performing on stage, being quick on my feet, that type of thing. So I'm not great at the long distance planning, which is the reason why, as a lead singer, I am very proud to say that I do not manage this band. I am not in control of anything that we do as far as paperwork and booking and all of that coordinating and stuff, because I am not that personality. A lot of people assume that because I'm in front of everything, but no, that is not true. Mike is the one who handles that, and I'm completely pleased to be hands off of that kind of thing. So he's really good at that kind of long distance, long term, looking at something that's impossible, that seems impossible, and saying, why not shoot for the frickin' stars, right? That thing, if you shoot for the moon, at least you'll land among the stars.
Right.
So if you're not aiming for it, you'll never hit it. So Mike will say things and I'm like, I'm just that kind of way. I'm like, okay, sure, let's go for it. Why not? And he allows me the space to do that, to be me, and to, be my creative, emotional self, and take that role of leadership. Now, for me, my hope for us moving forward I can say is that, with the next album that we get to, kind of do some new things with our sound. And I would say like our stage performance and our stage presence, I'm really interested in looking at how we can develop that and take that to the next level. We've got to play with some really great high level performers this year, and it puts a bug under us about, how do we keep up with that in bringing people something that is worth coming out to see every time, and something that we bring the excitement and the entertainment, so that you're getting what you pay for when you buy the ticket, and that kind of thing. So there's an important aspect of that for me. There's also a very important aspect of just being able to have that kind of creative fulfillment. So for me, it would be, being able to spend time in the studio and creating more music and trying different things, that sort of thing.
All right.
That's the best answer.
All right. Brittany, thank you. Brittany, guess what? It's your
Yeah.
turn.
I mean, I'm one of those shoot for the moon kind of people too. So I love this train. I'm on it, and I can see where it's going, and I want to be there for the duration. That's kind of where I'm at. I see us playing bigger shows, bigger venues, bigger festivals, having more and more production and more people involved in our production. That's
Amen.
kind of the next step. For you're asking what the next 5-year plan is. So the 5-year plan will be Limberlost turns into an enterprise, and really there's a lot of people in this band. There's lighting people and sound people and stage people and crew people and choreographers, and you know what, that's
Stylist,
the future. I would,
yes.
yeah, stylist. Yes, I don't want to know what I'm gonna wear. Just decide.
Yep.
Someone decides. I don't have to bring my suitcase anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
Having road crew on the road, having somebody to help, man, because right now we're 6 people, but we're still doing all of our own heavy lifting.
Yeah,
every bit
but
of it,
it's
every
not
show.
just somebody to help. It's that this is
This
is a huge big family, exactly, and we want people to want to be with us. And so I think we're at that place now. We've got this really cool and beautiful thing, and we want to start opening it up to people.
Ah,
So,
that's a great way to put it.
I hear that, and I wish you every luck. And Michael, I guess the biggest question I want to ask you, and I want your opinion on this as well to answer the question, but I'd like you to tell us a little bit more about the new song that's coming out. It's a song that's really made it in the music world, and you guys have changed it and changed it up. Now I love it, but do you have any thoughts about what your audience might think about taking it and making it sound the way it does today? Black Velvet, that is.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time we've done that. We did do this. We did a very similar thing with Jolene.
Jolene.
Where we had a little different take on it. It's so we have done a cover song before and stuff. But I did have something to say about that 5-year thing, because I just didn't want this to go by and without having some positive love put to it. But I have been in contact with Elon Musk and first rock band on the moon. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway,
he's out.
Hey,
when we start getting more than 5 Gs,
I've put that in my own squirrel cage now, so it's probably going to get worked on. But it's the way this crap happens around here.
That's right.
Welcome to the Limberlost.
Oh, no.
So Black Velvet, interesting. We've been playing this song for a little bit. Actually, the production that we have is not quite how we play it live, or hasn't been how we play it live. It was just kind of a this take on it was just a little bit more. We wanted something that had a little bit more of an aggressiveness to it.
Yes.
As we move forward and work with some of the people, I work with a lot of people that are doing pretty decent sized in the industry or very involved in the industry currently, and like it or not, the way the music business is going, if you want to play in the big festivals and you want to do some of the things we are doing and attempting to do, we are in a little heavier stream of music genre out there that we have to compete with. And so this music, or the way we produced the song and the way we produced the video, we hired this guy named Thomas Crane, We just
So
got our
cool.
video back. It's freaking amazing. He just got done doing all this insane work with Queen's Reich's new album. He's a big player, and we took a risk and said, come do your thing to our song. And we gave him a little direction, but we let his artistry flow, and we're super excited about
Yeah.
this film and the way hopefully it'll perceive the song or people will perceive the song with the video and the band, because it gives this band a little different flavor, a little bit more of a rock look, a little more rock authority, I think. And but yeah, and it's already starting to get programmed. One of the things that, if I can back up just a little bit, our last single, "Long Way From Home," that was written and filmed last year when we were out on the road. That song has been 17 weeks on the Hot 100 FM playlist.
Yes.
And so that opened up a new world to us, because we
Mhm.
didn't have that kind of, penetration on the market. And so this song's going to be able to dovetail on that. And we're pretty excited. We're about, the promoter and how he's going about getting ready to put it out there to the radio people across the country. And also how some of them, we've already had a couple that have reached out and said they're going to program it. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited to see where this goes. But that's not the end of it. We are going to be on a little bit of a high performance hiatus for a while as we get a new crop of material together for the next album.
Mhm.
So it's pretty exciting. But Black Velvet is coming out this Friday. You can pre-save it on Spotify. You can subscribe to all of our stuff. YouTube, it'll drop on Friday also. I think I hope you enjoy it. I hope people can connect to it. I can tell you this, whether you like it or not, I will bet you I will put a $20 bill on the table to anybody that says that 30 seconds into that they don't think about it for a second and go, my head's bobbing.
That's right. Yeah.
It'll definitely make
It's
you move.
jam.
Last question
It's
for
a
each
jam.
of you. I only have maybe 5 minutes, unless you guys can run a little over. But do you have, number one, any aha moments you want to share? Or number two, do you have any advice for the people listening, or any comments, whether it's advice or just thoughts, whatever? And we'll start with Crystal on that one. She's already thinking. I can see it.
Anything to share? Aha moments. I'm not sure. I would just say, if to anybody who is like doing what we're doing, trying to do what we're trying to do, that kind of thing. It's just that get the roles in your situation like figured out. Get someone in place like Mike. Get a mic to to really have somebody who's willing to be incessant and knocking down the doors. I think that's really, really a huge part of what we're doing, is that we always have eyes on the prize and we're always pushing forward. And for me, like, again, I had to be willing to kind of let go of some of my control freak nature to do that. And so I would say really be willing to take a chance and invest in the things that are going to move you forward, and be really committed to that process and seeing it through, because it is not easy. And not every road that you get on leads to the destination you think it's going to go to. And you just have to be willing to take the ride, and be willing to, jump on a different horse every once in a while and follow it through. And in the end, for me, like, there's no like one outcome that is like, if this happens, then I've arrived. I love the journey. I love this being a part of my life, so
Okay.
I don't know what that means to anybody, but that's what
I like it. I've heard it before. Some artists have said pretty much the same thing. Okay, Brittany, Lorraine, it is you.
Yeah, I also can't think of any aha moments. I mean, I guess the one I already shared, where I heard her and knew that this was just going to be a path I was going to choose, so that's probably the one. And I teach music, so I often give advice about I do. I teach voice and piano. So and especially to singer-songwriters and local people, I also coach. So at the end of the day, this is the takeaway, that anyone interested in getting into music or on this path or doing music, you have to have to. You feel me? You have to have this life because it is really hard. And it is really tedious, and you have to step out of your comfort zone, and you're going to have to learn things you never knew you had to learn, and you're going to have to be that person. And if you have to do music, you will become that person. Promise.
Good words, words of wisdom. I guess you're on, Mike. Thank you, Brittany, and Mike is on. You're the last word.
I've had a lot of aha moments. Last word freak, that's me. I've had a lot of aha moments. I seem to have one daily, actually, but it might be the dementia setting in too. I don't know. But I would say the biggest thing that I would say is we're a couple aha moments. Number one, surround yourself with people that are more successful than you are. Okay.
Yes.
It's and then help them become more successful, because that's really what that's about. And I'm not speaking about necessarily the band. Okay. I'm talking about the people you're going to need to make this business work. The days of the record label and some guy in a slick suit showing up with a satchel full of money and signing you to a deal and then taking care of everything for you. Those
Dream
days are
on,
gone.
baby.
Those don't exist.
Dream on.
So you have to find all the people that were in that guy's suitcase are now scattered all over the internet, telling you for $29.95 a month they can teach you how to be successful. So I mean, but there are players out there that you need to come alongside and find out who those people are and who those relationships are. And obviously you have to have something that inspires them in terms of a product, but or a nature, but but develop those relationships, nurture them, because they are essential to you. And then the other thing is that goes hand in glove with that is have the humility to know that everything you think you know about the music business is BS. Okay. Because I run into this constantly. I listen to people get on the internet, and there was an argument about whether an original band should open for a tribute band on the Facebook the other day, and all the crap that was going on in this everybody butting chest on the subject. And I'm looking at, I go, you guys don't have a freaking clue. I mean, who cares? You don't know, that's an imaginary hierarchy that you're subscribing to that has nothing to do with where you want to go in the business. And I think it was Crystal or Brittany, you said you have to have. It's going to be a hard ride, but it's your ride. You decide what that's going to look like, and then find the ways to get there. And don't be lashing your wagon to a bunch of crap that doesn't really matter, because everything if you're reading about the music business today, it's already obsolete. If it's on paper right now, if there's a how-to on paper right now, it's already obsolete, because that's how quick the world is changing around us.
Yeah.
And don't take no for an answer.
Boom.
All right, I think we lost Brittany, but I do want to thank you all, including Brittany, for coming out today and signing on and coming in to talk with us. I really appreciate it, guys. Thanks, and every good luck in the future. I want to go to one of your. You're welcome. I want to go to one of your concerts or gigs or whatever and see you in person.
That would be lovely. We would welcome that. Let us know if you're ever able to do so.
I will. And Michael.
Thank you so much,
Mike,
Joy.
sorry. You're welcome. And by the way, I want that list of schedule. I want your schedule for all the new things that you're going to have come up. You said you post one, okay? Amateur musicians.
Okay.
That would be great.
All right. Good. Thanks again. Have a wonderful rest of
your week.
Thanks, everybody.
I'll be watching you. I'll be watching you. Bye.
Bye.
All right.
Be well.
So that's it for our program today. What a lively bunch. Whew. I'll bet they are energy packed when they're playing. I can't wait. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed it. I do wish you the best in this week and in the coming weeks, but do tune in next Monday. I apologize. I don't know who I have on my schedule. I was so excited that I forgot to find out. I do have a tip jar coming up that will be posted on my website. If anybody wants to contribute to my music, nothing, no obligations whatsoever, but I do hope you have a good rest of your week and see you around. Bye, guys.